All right. Hello, hello, hello. So, today, I'm going to be talking about transcending morality and enlightenment. So, transcending this idea of what it means to be moral, transcending the idea of what it means to be enlightened, transcending the need for the rule book, and becoming our higher selves, what this actually means. Okay, so again, this is a big concept, right? This idea of enlightenment. And I know that we all have our ideas of what it means to be enlightened. And I think a lot of us have taken the idea that is presented to us in religion. Yes, the idea of heaven, the idea of this perfect afterlife where we did all the right things, we were obedient, we followed the rules, and then we get our reward in heaven where there's no more pain, there's no more suffering, and it's all just golden temples and figs and grapes, right? And a lot of us are like, we don't believe in that. We don't believe in that heaven. We've transcended the idea of religion and the afterlife and living your life for some sort of after effect. But a lot of us are still applying that same logic and that same desire and that same just method of thinking to our living lives when we are talking about enlightenment, right? Where we're all thinking that if I just perform correctly in my life, if I just can be perfect, if I can find the rule book, if I can do all the right spiritual things, if I can get the Shakti pot from the teacher, if I can find the right teacher, if I can find the right leader, if I can find the right rules and follow them perfectly, I will become enlightened, where I will realize, right? And then we all kind of have these different ideas of what enlightenment is, but I think a lot of us think it's like where we will realize that it's all in our minds and that there is no actual pain, there is no physical reality, it's all just in our head, it's all just in our mind, and we have complete control over everything. And we will transcend suffering because we finally understand that nothing's real and that nothing exists. Or we're going to lose our ego because that's the thing that's hurting us. And once we stop identifying with ourselves at all and we just fully identify as being one with everything, or fully identify as God, or fully identify as whatever we think that all the pain and everything will go away. Or we just think again, like, right, we'll follow yoga perfectly, we'll follow this guru perfectly, we'll follow whatever perfectly, and then eventually our suffering will stop and we will just be in a transcended state. And I hope that you can hear that these two things are not different. Heaven, I'm going to do the rules perfect, I'm going to follow the religion perfect, and then I will be rewarded with heaven, is not different from I'm going to do the Eastern philosophy, the spirituality, New Age spirituality, whatever it is, and then be rewarded with my transcendence, heaven, right? These two things are the same thing. And what I am constantly trying to get across in these videos and everything that I teach is that this idea is antithetical to how we know life functions, right? This idea of I'm going to get to a place where I am no longer subject to pain, where I no longer have any form of suffering, where I am in complete alignment with, like, I fully understand myself, and I fully understand God, and I fully understand the universe, and in that, I will never have pain again. That this doesn't align with how reality functions. Because we know that as living beings, the one characteristic that all living beings share is that they must be growing. They must be growing. And enlightenment, or heaven, or whatever it is that we think we're looking for, is a state of stagnation. If we really look at it, right, we're saying it's like a graduation. We're thinking that we're going to get to this place where we are done. We are perfect, right? And this is a lot of what we think of as our higher self. We think we're going to get to a place where we finally get it, we see it all, we understand, and then that's it. We're masters now. And this doesn't make sense biologically. In order to be alive, you have to be in a state of growth. You have to be learning something new. You have to be facing new things in order to be learning new things. And so what I really, again, want to solidify for everyone is that it's mostly that we have associated learning and growth and challenge and struggle and confusion and not knowing and the unknown and all of these things with unhappiness, right? And we really think that if we could just get rid of all the unknown, all the challenge, all the things I don't know, all the things that are going to pop up and surprise me, all of the pain in life, I will be happy. Because we really think these are the things that are making us unhappy. That we are made unhappy by the surprises of life, by the things we don't know, by the negative emotions, by the challenges, by the struggles, by the things we didn't know about ourselves and the things we didn't know about reality when we break ourselves against reality. We really think that is what's making us unhappy. When the reality is, the thing that's making us unhappy about that stuff is that we believe it is life going wrong. We believe it is that we are doing something wrong and it makes us wrong and bad, right? Because again, as we talk about in all these videos, we have to understand that our nervous systems have been programmed in our childhoods before we had logic and reason, before our brains were even developed enough to understand what was going on and why it was happening. And a lot of this programming is unconscious. We don't see it. We don't know about it. It's unconscious. That's what the unconscious is. It's all of that programming we took in when we were very small children. And that we, again, it was programmed into our bodies, programmed into our way of being before we had consciousness, before we had cognition, before we knew what was going on. And so therefore it became our way of life. It became our status quo when we didn't even know what a status quo was, when we didn't even know it was being made our status quo. And then that becomes our filter, our perception of reality. And anything that's out of alignment with true reality that we were taught in our childhoods starts to become things that cause us pain. Okay? So again, going all the way back to the fact that we have a biology. And I mean, that's a thing that a lot of spiritual people still don't really want to embrace or understand. We have a biology. We are physical beings inside physical bodies that are designed for one thing. And that one thing is self-preservation. Okay? You don't have to go out there to find nature. You live, your consciousness is occupying nature. This is nature. This is nature. And it is life. It is living. Right? So this body, just like all other forms of nature, is interested in self-preservation. That's why it's continually trying to grow and evolve and expand. And when any time we take something in or do something or have an experience that is counter to our body's evolution, we feel pain. Yeah? When we take in a poisonous substance, what is a poisonous substance? A poisonous substance is something that is antagonistic to your cellular health, to your cellular growth. And it makes us feel sick. We vomit or we feel ill. Why? Because that's the pain-pleasure mechanism of life saying this is counter to life. And we don't have to cognitively understand that something is poisonous for us before it makes us sick, right? Yes, our minds are very powerful. Yes, there's the placebo effect and the nocebo effect. But still, I challenge anyone to give a baby bleach. Have them drink it. They don't know that bleach is poisonous. They don't even know that poison is a thing. They have no concept of any of this. And they are going to get sick if you give them bleach. Please don't give a baby bleach. But I wanted to say that as an example. That, like, right, I get it. We all think our minds are very powerful, and our minds are very powerful, and that our perception can change our experience of things, and that is absolutely true. However, there are still fundamental rules to how this universe functions, and our bodies play by those rules. So if a baby drinks bleach, even if that baby has no concept of that bleach being poisonous, it will be poisonous to their body. Okay? So that's true nature. We all have that. And because we are complex beings, because we are so complex, because we have self-awareness, because we have storytelling capacity, because we have the ability to create, we are very complex. So therefore, what it takes, what is required for us to be on a growth path is complex. Okay? What is required for each one of us to be on our individual relative growth path that is contained? It is contained within the universal truth, the universal growth path, is not simple. It's not simple because you're not simple, because we are not simple. We are very, very complex beings. And so that is the first thing that we need to understand, that our biology is foundationally and fundamentally set up for self-preservation. And that self-preservation is not something we're gonna cognitively understand, probably ever, because we are so complex. However, we can understand it to the degree that we need to understand it in any moment to keep on our life path. Okay, so you're not ever going to know everything you're always going to need to be on your path of growth. Like forever. You're not going to figure that out. But you can absolutely be conscious enough in each moment that you can figure out what you need in each moment. And you can trust your biology and your physiology to continue to give you feedback. This is in alignment, this is out of alignment. This is in alignment, this is out of alignment. This is feeding my growth, this is antagonistic to my growth. That's what pain and pleasure are. That's what your emotions are. Okay, your feelings generate emotion. So we have pain and pleasure, which is just the binary, in alignment with life, out of alignment with life. In alignment with self-preservation, out of alignment with self-preservation. And then the way that we perceive pain and pleasure is through feeling. Tightness, pain, lightness, expansion, relief of pain, right? That's how we perceive pain and pleasure. That's how we perceive the feedback. And then that can manifest and accumulate into disease and disorder, or it can manifest and accumulate into growth and expansion and building of strength or flexibility or whatever we kind of want to look at there. And on an emotional level, it's the exact same thing. It's the exact same thing. It's all mirrored in the same thing. So your emotions, your physical expression, it's all going to be a mirror of itself. So as you're degrading physically, you're also going to have feelings that turn into emotions. So we start with sadness and anger and resentment, and then they build and build into anxiety and depression. And then these things turn into our need for coping mechanisms and our addictions and our self-sabotage. And it's all one big feedback loop of we are denying, we are running from, we are responding to that which is out of alignment with our truth and what is in alignment with life and self-preservation. Now, remember, the thing that complicates this is that in our childhoods, in our infancy, self-preservation did not come from aligning with reality. Okay? In our infancy, self-preservation did not come from aligning with reality. We were not capable of aligning with reality. We were not capable of being aware of reality. We were not capable of meeting our own needs, of understanding how or why to meet our own needs, or what was going on, or how to align with reality. We did not have the capacity for that. Okay? Self-preservation in our childhoods came from what? Our caregivers caring for us. And this is so vital for us to understand. Because again, everyone out there who's spiritualizing your coping mechanisms, your pain, your addictions, your self-sabotage, as you're identifying with the wrong thing, or you're not enlightened, or you're just, right, you're feeling your emotions too much and you need to transcend them and blah, 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 blah. No, that's a complete misunderstanding of just, I'm sorry, this is a physiological thing that happened to you. It's not this big spiritual thing. In your infancy and in your childhood, you were programmed for the consensus reality of your caregivers and the people in your immediate environment. You were programmed that you needed to be, do, and express in a very specific way in order for them to approve of you, because their approval of you was self-preservation. Okay? In your childhood, in your infancy, and I will say this as many times as I need to for the next 100 years, self-preservation and fitting into your tribe, your family, your education system, the government system, whatever it is that you needed to fit into so as to be accepted, so that you would be provided for in the ways you could not provide for yourself, was self-preservation. So that is where our wires of pain and pleasure got crossed. Right? In your infancy and childhood, it was not about aligning with real reality. It was about aligning with whatever you needed to be so that you were accepted by the people around you. And at large, societally, what you needed to be and do to survive this world, because that is a part of this. The socioeconomic, religious, governmental, education systems that are a part of what you were born and raised into, what you had to do to survive, like what your caregivers were teaching you. These are the rules of society. And if we don't follow these rules, there's pain for us. And those rules may not be in alignment with reality. Our governmental structures, our education system, all these things are not life supporting. Let's be honest about that. But the only thing worse than going along with it and figuring out how to adapt to be a part of it, the only thing worse than that is not to. because we don't know how to be an individual self yet, right? We are indoctrinated into a culture of we need to fit in. And again, we learn that first in the caregiver relationship, that fitting in is paramount to survival. And then again, right, we have evolved naturally over time as a humanity, as a group species, right? In any other point in history, if a person, an individual, was cast out of society, the chances of them being able to survive was essentially nothing. We are at a very new point in history. Like very, very, very new. Like 20 seconds on the scale of how long humanity's been alive. That people can be essentially self-sufficient. Like, this has never happened before. And so we have to understand that, yes, we can trust our biology. And this is what I'm going to get to in a second, about how we transcend morality and how we transcend enlightenment and all of these things and get to where the real joy of life is. And that is through reconnecting with the true pain and pleasure, the true feedback mechanism from reality. Because as you align with reality more and more and more and more, the more you will find pleasure in everything that you do. Because again, it is not the challenge, it is not the struggle, it's not the unknown, it's not any of these things that cause us distress, that cause us pain, that cause us to suffer. And in fact, you can be in a situation where you're like, holy smokes, I have no idea what's going on. This is something I've never had before. I'm in total self meltdown. And you can be joyful about that. It doesn't have to be suffering. And it's not just a decision you make in your mind either. It's a deep knowing and understanding and trusting of real reality because you're connected to it enough. And so this is what I'm trying to say. We are all looking for the rule books. We are all looking for, just tell me what to do so that all this pain and craziness will stop. And we all search for it, right? And now in our economy, where spirituality is sold just like a good of anything else, we're being told what we want to hear by spiritual people, that you can transcend and that enlightenment is possible, in the sense of you can get to a place where you just are transcended your emotions. You've transcended your physical body. You've transcended whatever, and you have only a oneness awareness. You're completely in unity consciousness all the time, and that's like a bliss thing. And they sell you this, not because it's true, right? Maybe they believe it. I'm not saying everyone's a huckster. It could be that lots of people are in such states, because this is another thing, right? That the way our nervous systems work and the way that we are all adapted, there are people who have the capacity to dissociate from their pain and their emotions and their feedback mechanism. When it gets bad enough, they can dissociate. Byron Katie, people who teach things like this, that the pain gets so bad that in order to cope with it, they dissociate. They realize it's not them. They realize it has nothing to do with it. And rather than that being an actual spiritual truth awareness, right? Because there is that. We can have that awareness of like, oh my gosh, I've been hating this thing about myself my whole life because my caregivers didn't like it. But my caregivers aren't in control of reality. I'm an adult now. As an adult, I can express this part of myself be rejected and still be okay. That's a spiritual enlightenment moment. I can be this, get rejected, and it'll be okay. Because I can still provide for myself. Because remember, your physiology and your biology are still programmed that if we get rejected, we die. So, that's that contradiction of like the pain of not being myself hurts so bad because it's against my biology, it's against my life, it's against my complex evolutionary path. But again, my nervous system is programmed that if I do this thing that got me rejected, that got me shamed, that got me abandoned by my caregivers or society at large, that's going to kill me. So we have pain and pleasure. We have these two programs running at the same time. We have our natural biological programming that knows exactly what's in alignment for us. Pain and pleasure, this is the next step on the path. This is the next growth. This is the thing in our environment that will create growth. This is the thing in our environment that will create death. This feels good, that feels bad. Let's do this, not that. We have that program. And then we have the other program. That this is what I had to do, be, and say in order to be approved of by my caregivers, which was survival in my childhood. And most of us have never transcended this program. And this is why we are in a complete mental health crisis, in a spirituality crisis, while all of our systems are seemingly falling apart. And that's a good thing, because we're seeing that it doesn't matter how much humans believe something. If it is not true, it will fall. If it is not in alignment with reality, it doesn't matter how much we try to hold it up. It will break because it's not true. Like the people always say, the truth will always come out. So all of these people who are selling this enlightenment bullshit, selling this spiritual bypassing stuff, it's coming out now that these people don't have the beautiful, awesome, put together lives they told us they had. And we're all shocked at all these gurus who were sexual abusers and smuggling money and doing all these crazy things. But it's like, yes, of course. Like, look at what they were teaching. It's completely out of alignment with reality. It all comes out in the wash. Because this program, the real, true nature program, doesn't give a shit what humans think. We can think chocolate cake is good for us all we want, and this program will still win out. We will still get stomach cancer and die if all we eat is chocolate cake. Doesn't matter how much you think positive about it, because again, there are structures to this reality that human beings did not create and we have no control over. Okay, so what this has to do with transcending morality and enlightenment. We need to understand that us looking to spiritual people, us looking to people who seem to be in alignment, who have the lives that we want, who have the peace, the transcendence, the whatever it is that we think we're looking for, we have a natural tendency to say, okay, if I just act like them, if I just do what they're doing, if I eat how they eat, if I move where they are, if I work the way that they work, if I speak the way that they speak, if I meditate how they meditate, if I do the things that they're doing now, and I follow the rule book that they've given me, that I will end up being like that. I will end up where they are. That is following a finger, not the moon. Okay? If anyone has a state of transcendence, if anyone has success in this life, if anyone is really truly like getting it, like having a joyful human experience within the human experience, if someone is like healing, and like you can see that they're on a life generation path, because that's really what it is. Like that's what we're seeking. Like even consider like what we consider beautiful, what we consider attractive, what we consider good is all the things that to us represent health and life and regeneration. That's what we're attracted to. That heaven that we all think about is the us that's living, that's like healthy and vibrant. That's what we all want, because that's what our biology is driving us for, this vibrancy. And we all know that it's not just physical doing it right. We all know that a part of us living our most vibrant, alive lives is us expressing as our true selves and continuing to express as our true selves. And that's not a flighty, floaty MLM speech thing. It's very grounded in reality. It's going to be very grounded in reality. In the like, this is a relationship that no longer works, and I should not be in it. It just doesn't feel good. This drains my energy. This method of work helps me feel good. But doing it too much is too much, right? It's very much about finding your human life. What serves your growth? That's what being you is. Continuing to discover things about yourself you didn't know. Continuing to discover things that you want to create that you didn't even know you wanted to create. It's a continual process, right? This being who you are isn't a heaven. It isn't a state you reach and then you're there and you know all about yourself and you're just living this perfect life. No, it's going to be continual growth. You're going to be continually discovering things about yourself, continually evolving things about yourself. Like there are things about you who you will be in 50 years that there's only a little seed of inside of you right now. And you couldn't be that, even if you wanted to be, right? So when we're following these spiritual teachers and we're looking for the rule book, we're missing the point. Because how they are living, if it's in alignment for them, it's working for them because it's in alignment for them. And if they're doing it for the real reason, whatever their spiritual practice is, whatever their vocation, wherever they live, however they relate in relationships, they're doing it because it feels good to do. And if it's getting them good results, if it's enhancing their life, that's how they know they're following biological program. If it feels good to do and it's causing destruction to the self or others, that's consensus reality programming. That's how we determine the difference. Because we all, in this moment, every single one of us, have things that we do, and things that we desire, and things that we act on, and things that we say, and things that we think that hurt, that cause destruction and chaos. And we all think, well, there must be something wrong with me that I'm doing that. I must lack enlightenment. I need the rule book. I need someone to keep me in line. If I don't have society around me telling me what's right and wrong, I can't trust myself. Look at what I do. I'm chaotic. I'm destructive. I have these negative emotions, and if I follow them, it makes a big mess. That's consensus reality. That's your programmed biology taking over to try to save your life. There's nothing wrong with you. That's what happens when you go into fear. When you feel like you are about to be rejected. When you feel like you're being abandoned. When you feel like you're not going to get your needs met. When you don't understand what your needs are. And this is what you did as a child. This is how you acted out as a child for your caregivers to give you what they needed to give you. This is how you suppressed yourself so that your caregivers wouldn't reject this part of yourself. This is how you learned to behave in your childhood when being approved of, being in alignment with consensus reality, was self-preservation. So all of your negative habits, all of your negative thoughts, everything you think is wrong with you is an adaptation. Is an adaptation to the world you were raised in. And we need to understand this. That again, society, the way that it functions, is antithetical to human life. Surviving in that productivity is king. We can all strive and take more than we need. This bullshit abundance teaching that I just think is garbage. That we can take for ourselves. That we can shore up for ourselves. That we can take more than we need, and that's a good thing. That we need to be constantly productive. That we need to be constantly saving other people. Or just these like robotic lives that we live, where we're looking for safety, right? We are all looking for the job to give us the pension, to give us the retirement, and we're all looking for heaven, and we're not connected to each other, we're not connected to nature, we're not connected to each other, we're not connected to ourselves. We have no sense of ourselves beyond what we do and what we produce. Like, this is all completely out of alignment with human nature. Human nature is not competitive. Human nature is not violent. Human nature is not hoarding. These are all adaptations we have made because of trauma we have experienced as a human race, right? Because we have experienced shortage of food. We have experienced this tribe, all the people that look like me are my group, and then those people that don't look like me come, take our resources, give us disease, fight with us. So bad, good. Where did racism come from? Yeah, tribal battles that started when we didn't have enough, when we didn't know how reality worked enough, when we were in our humanitarian infancy. And everything was a threat to our survival, and nature was scary, and we didn't understand, and we couldn't align ourselves, right? Like, humanity had an infancy, just like each person has an infancy. And in that, we learned other people are scary. They bring us disease and take our shit. That's where it started. And now we still have that mindset that I'm a me, and this is my group, and you're a you, and that's your group, and other groups are threats to my group. And like, even in the social justice warrior, there's still so much tribalism in what we're doing. In the trying to like all figure out what our like identities are so specifically so that we can fit into the right group, so we know who our group is. It's like, that is the problem. That is not the solution. Figuring out your very specific, it's like your identity is like squeezing a bar of soap. The harder you grasp it, the more it's going to slip out of your hand. Because, again, the boundaries and the boundaries and the structure of you. There is a fundamental you, yes, but it's like constantly evolving and changing. So the more you try to figure out your identity so you can fit into your group to feel safe, you're not going to ever find that. And that's not where safety is. Right? So again, we're looking for the rule book. We're looking for the group. We're looking for the, where do I belong, so that I can stop feeling separate, so I can stop feeling afraid. Because that's the childhood trauma, right? That when I am separate, I am at risk of death. When I get rejected, I'm going to die. When I have to be alone, I'm going to die. And this is why every spiritual story that we hear of every spiritual person, there's the wilderness. They all go through the wilderness. They all go through the separating from everyone and everything. The hero's journey. The native people, the indigenous people who tell their stories of, and then they send the boy out into the wilderness alone for 30 days so he can figure his shit out, because he has to connect with reality. So this is the point. This is how we transcend morality. This is how we transcend enlightenment, is that we recognize that we are going to find truth through our own connection to our own biology, to our own connection to reality. And that requires that we disconnect from the consensus we've been raised in, the water we're swimming in. We have to be brave enough. We have to be brave enough to start to trust ourselves. And again, we all want the shortcut. We don't want the painful route. We just want to do the right thing so that we understand reality and everything's great. We want a spiritual teacher. You want me to tell you, okay, this is what it looks like to be in alignment. This is how you should be eating. This is how you should be meditating. This is how you should be journaling. This is how you should be speaking. This is where you should be living and how you should be living. And if you just do these things that I'm doing, right, just eat the organic food and be on a raw foods diet and meditate for 15 minutes a day just like this, and then do your journaling and move to a tropical location, and then you're in alignment. And that is not reality, because that's true for me right now, but that is, again, it's like the metaphor of someone driving from New York to LA. If someone is still in New York and someone else is halfway there already, the thing that's in alignment for the person that's still in New York is to take a right-hand turn. The thing that's in alignment for the person who's halfway there is to pull over and get a watermelon. So if person in New York pulls over and gets a watermelon, that's not helping them. It's out of alignment for them. Totally in alignment for this person. If this person takes a right-hand turn, it's out of alignment for them. In alignment for them. It's not about what it looks like on the outside. So, and again, the second thing of this, disconnecting from our programming is hard and scary and messy and painful. There is absolutely no way around it. There is no way of making it easy to because that's what everyone asks me. Well, how do I tell the difference between consensus reality, pain and pleasure, and real pain and pleasure? And I'm going to say, again, over and over, that is a difficult and challenging process of reconnecting with your emotions, of starting with, this is the one thing that we all have to do, and the one thing none of us want to do, and that is this: you must make yourself safe in everything that you're doing and feeling. Until you have safety, I don't care how long you stand on your head. I don't care how many vipassanas you go to. I don't care how many ayahuasca journeys you take. Nothing is going to change in your life. You're not going to get it. You're not going to start to actually see reality for how reality is versus how society says it is until you make yourself safe. Because it is only in a state of safety that we can learn, grow, change, evolve, and expand. And that's what awakening is. Waking up to reality, waking up to your true self, waking up to anything is simply the process of evolution. It's a process you're going to be doing for the whole rest of your life. Evolving. Aligning with reality more and more and more. Becoming more and more aware. Through your feelings. Okay? And if you don't feel safe, your biology, again, Doesn't matter how much you intend what you intend, how much you want what you want, how much you know what the right thing is. It doesn't matter how much you intellectually understand about how whatever you're about to do is self-harming or harming to others. When you are scared, when you are in a state of fear, your biology takes over and says, we are going to do what we have always done. We are going to align with that consensus reality because that is what saved our life every other time. And again, I know a lot of us think, well, okay, I didn't learn to be an alcoholic in my childhood. Yes, you did. Drinking is an evolution upon how you have been adapting yourself and adapting to an antagonistic environment. It didn't start with alcohol. You didn't begin in your infancy drinking alcohol to stop you from being your true self or to cope with the misery of your life. You probably started with cartoons and too much food or sex or drugs or rock and roll, and then you got into partying, and then you realized, oh, alcohol makes me feel good. And then it became the coping mechanism because it worked better than the stuff you had access to as a child. But it didn't start in your adulthood. It started way back when you first expressed something that your caregivers were like, nah, you can't do that. That's not okay. And then that's triggered your nervous system. Well, I'm going to die if I am this. So even though it's true to me, it's antagonistic to my survival right now in the relative codependency of my childhood. And therefore, I have to turn it off. And the only way to turn off your real self, because that is super painful, is to cope, to self-sabotage, to do all these things. So again, your physiology and your biology is driving you to do these things that it thinks are saving your life. So everything that you do, you need to look at it and say, this is how I learned I needed to be in order to survive. This is me trying to fit in. And when you make yourself safe in that, because again, remember, what was the thing that made us feel safe and secure in our infancy? Love and acceptance. Love and acceptance. When we feel loved and accepted, to our biology and our physiology, that means our needs are going to get met. We're safe. We go into rest and digest. Our consciousness expands. That is a spiritual experience. When you feel safe, and this is the reality of this. This is why so many people are not having spiritual experiences all the time, are not having revelations all the time, are not continually like, whoa. It happens so rarely because we are so rarely safe. We so rarely feel safe that we have equated just this is what happens naturally when you feel safe and supported with a spiritual experience. And I want you to get to a place where you live like that, where every moment, every day is like blowing your mind because you're safe. And therefore you can be continually taking in and learning and expanding. And then this will be how you figure out what you want to be doing and what kind of life you want to be living and what steps to be taking that are in alignment with your growth path. Like, what's my higher self? What's my purpose? What's my being? Okay, in every moment. It's just you choosing the thing that feels like expansion. You don't have to know anything beyond this one step of what feels like expansion right now. And sometimes what feels like expansion right now is a nap. Sometimes what feels like expansion right now is playing a game of Sudoku. It's not writing your book or whatever. And so this is what I'm saying. The way we transcend needing the rule book and the way we transcend being attached to this idea of an enlightenment that's over there, that I will feel happy and blissed out when I X, Y, and Z. And we can start to say, no, I can live an aligned life. And from where I am all the time, first is we accept where we are. That alignment is not over there. Alignment is not when I am blah, blah, blah. Alignment is just from where I am right now. What is the most aligned thing to do? And your biology is going to fight you on the true growth path as much as that true growth path contradicts your consensus reality programming. So this is why we must first learn to be with all of our emotions, to be with all of our fear, to be with all of that physiological reaction that's happening for all of us. And to not act on it, but make it safe. Make it safe that we want to binge. Make it safe that we want to drink alcohol. Make it safe that we want to get into that fight. In the sense that we tell ourselves, even if you do this, I still love you. And again, we're all so afraid that if we validate these bad parts of ourselves, we're just giving ourselves permission to be horrible. But the truth is, when you make it safe to do everything you're doing, to be everything that you are, you remove the consensus reality, guilt and shame. You will not be left with no understanding of anything. You will not get to a point where there's just nothing. No rules, you have no idea. Right? We're all afraid if we don't have the external world telling us what's right and wrong, we're just going to walk off a cliff and have no idea. Nope. Because when we remove the shame and we make ourselves safe, real pain and pleasure will always be there. You will learn through experiencing that taking more than you need does not feel good. It will not be a rule you have to follow. When there's no guilt and no shame, you make yourself safe in everything that you're doing. You approve of yourself. What's going to be left is real pain and pleasure, your actual biology. And then again, you will not have to use discipline to do what's good for you. You will not have to use discipline to resist the things that are harmful. Number one, because you will have transcended your cultural programming that was making you do those things in the first place. You will feel the pain of what you're doing, and you won't want to do it anymore. That's it. You will feel the pleasure of following your true path and walk yourself through doing it a couple of times, getting rejected, and being like, it's okay, I didn't die. Look, I didn't die. Like literally this. You will have to start to act on these things that you know are true for you and get rejected and have people say that you're stupid and have people tell you that you're messing up your life and that you're selfish and you're horrible and you're all of these things and you shouldn't do that. And you will go and you will make mistakes and you will fall down and you won't know what you're supposed to be doing. And you'll keep following it anyways and prove to yourself, again, I can be rejected and not die. Makes it more and more safe. You learn to be with yourself through the challenge. And then all of a sudden, the growth path, the real growth path, becomes the enlightenment. Where you can be continually challenging yourself, struggling, falling down. I don't know what's going on. Your world keeps exploding in front of your face. And it feels exciting. And it feels fun. And it feels, wow. And even when it's hard and sad and doesn't feel good in the moment, there's still this underlying, but it's right. Because again, sometimes doing the right thing, sometimes the aligned thing is going to frickin' hurt. And that doesn't mean it's wrong, but you're going to be able to discern the difference between growth pain and out of alignment pain. Because there is growth pain. There's going to be growth pain. But that's how we transcend it. We stop looking for the rules. We stop looking for the finger. We stop looking for heaven over there, and I'll be happy when. No. You reconnect with who you are right now and everything you feel, and you make yourself safe. Because that is the one foundation where if you don't have that, you can't learn. If your caregivers, when you hit another kid, had come to you and said, I love you, you're still good. There's nothing wrong with you, you're not bad. Now look that other child in the eye and feel what they're feeling. How did it feel to hit them? You would have felt, that doesn't feel good. And then your caregiver would say, okay, let's try sharing. How does that feel? That would have felt good to you. You would have been in a state of safety because caregiver is not taking away their love. Therefore, you're still going to be provided for. You did a thing that was out of alignment. They didn't have to discipline you to understand. You would have felt, and then you would have learned deep inside yourself that cooperation feels better than competition. And that would have been a way you lived your life for the rest of your life without any intellectual forcing yourself to do it. Because you learned it. This is the thing that we all skipped in our childhoods that we have to now do for ourselves. So there's no skipping it. You're going to have to go to every one of your painful things. Make it safe. You're still good. I still love you. I'm still going to get your needs met. Now, how does it feel? How does it really feel inside when you know you're safe and loved? And again, building that muscle to love ourselves enough that our own love feels like a safety is a process. But we got to be committed to it, right? So this path is not about the rules or whatever, but it is, we do have to be committed. We have to be committed to sticking it out with ourselves and to sorting it through, and it's going to be confusing. And like I say, the main thing is you make yourself safe. If you make yourself safe, if you can keep trying to show up, love yourself, prove to yourself that you can get your needs met even if other people reject you, the more you will learn and connect with your true biology. So I get it. People are selling you enlightenment, people are selling you a shortcut, people are selling you all these things because monetary, because it's what you want to hear and it's what sells. But it's not real. What is real is, what am I feeling in this moment? How can I make myself safe? So that I can actually feel what the real reality is. And then look at culture, look at all of these things and say, okay, well, yeah, no wonder I think I need to do that. No wonder I've been suppressing this part of myself, because this is going to get me rejected. This is weird. I don't want to do what society is telling me to do. And we're going to have to embrace that. And then we slowly take steps towards something else. And then we are now creating the new world, because we need a new world. This productivity competition, it's not working. The world needs people like us who are willing to say, I don't want that. It doesn't feel good. And I'm going to be brave enough to slowly take steps to do something different. To take the risk to do something different. Even though it's going to get me rejected, and prove to myself that I can still survive. Little by little. And then we create a whole new world. We create new options. If enough of us are doing this, we create a new option. Okay, so, and then you can feel aligned at any given moment. You can be $10,000 in debt, you put $10 in, that's alignment. You're not going to feel bliss, because you're not plus $1 million. Right? But it's going to feel better than taking another $10 out. And that's how we kind of have to be with ourselves. Okay? So don't look for the rule book. Come to your feelings. Sort through them. Sort through them. Be willing to take this path, this journey of making yourself safe and approving of yourself. And watch how that shows you what reality is. And you don't need a rule book or anyone to tell you what's right or wrong. Pain and pleasure will tell you. And then as you follow that, you will create the life you want. Slowly. And it will be an adventure. Forever. Okay? So I love you. You're amazing. You're perfect. You're awesome. Exactly as you are. And I'll see you next week.